Hello and welcome to this very special social work presentation of Academic Abby, in which we'll discuss spirituality and religion, particularly how they relate to systems of privilege and oppression. So to begin, we're just going to go over some vocabulary that will orient our discussion. Essentially, religion is defined as a system of symbols by which people orient themselves in the world with reference to both ordinary and extraordinary powers, meanings, and values. So to break this down a bit, this idea of symbols refers to culture, or this idea of a code of ethics or a creed, and just, beliefs and values that are guiding this idea of religion. The orientation of oneself within the world refers to the idea of community, or the group of people who are carrying out this culture or this religion. And then this reference to the ordinary and extraordinary powers refers to this human need to make sense of the unknown. So culturally, it's a universal that all people have this desire and appraisal of the unknown. And so that need to figure out what we don't know actually drives religion and spirituality in a lot of people's lives. And like I said, it's a system of culture with symbols and whatnot. So this is really a system with organizational structure. In the same way that it's a cultural universal, while each culture may have a different approach to religion, each culture does have some sort of sense of religion that's organized by this system structure. And I like this color wheel here just because it kind of shows all these components that both make up religion, but also that religion is a part of. Like I mentioned, community, or even traditions and rituals. This idea of knowledge and stories kind of refers to the beliefs people have and norms, values again. And so, just to give a little more context, I'm quoting Jacobs in her piece from 2007 on spirituality. And she explains that there is a difference between intrinsic and extrinsic approaches to spirituality. So essentially, intrinsic refers to the more personalized or internal experience of faith, in which you derive your insight from your personal experiences and you understand things from your own lens. Then comparatively, extrinsic refers to what I kind of just described with religion over here. And it's more of an institutionalized system where truth is held by leaders, texts, or an ongoing history of how it has been. And so Jacobs also refers to this range of understanding, though, which I think is important, because with these definitions, it can feel like religion and spirituality are two separate, non-coexisting things. But in reality, all people kind of have an experience with both religion and spirituality. You can be a person who's part of an organized religion, and maybe that feels more extrinsic for you, yet you still may have some intrinsic sense of spirituality as well. And Jacobs kind of explains the transformation of symbols, rituals, beliefs, and divinity is a profound example to create life and hope. So again, she's kind of just referring to this need to understand is really what drives religion in our daily lives. I wanted to look at how religion specifically exists in people's personal lives, including my own, but also others. And I felt a good way to kind of guide this discussion was through Macklemore. He's one of my favorite rappers, but he has a couple different songs about spirituality and faith that really help me understand religion the way I do. And one of his songs is called Vipassana, which actually refers to experiencing reality as it is, or this idea of finding clarity or just seeking insight to understand things. And so in this one quote from his song here, he says, studying the Dharma, Karma, Vipassana practice, Buddha, God, to the mountaintop, traveling. And he says, learning, reflection, and then in the face of these ideas like impermanence and lack of attachment. And so Vipassana is actually an ancient Indian meditation spiritual technique. And I appreciate that Macklemore referenced it, because for him, it appears that's a way that he kind of makes sense of religion and spirituality. But he's just that's only one of the many ways. And at the beginning of Vipassana, Macklemore also says, we sit and discuss God on lawn chairs about how we got here, fate versus faith, scrimmaging with coincidence. And I really like that lyric too, just because I feel like it speaks to the informality that can come with spirituality. And for a lot of us, it's not something we just automatically know. For many of us, it's just something we explore with those around us or explore in our own thoughts. And so I like this quote because it really orients that for everyone, spirituality is just their own personal experience. And then another song from Macklemore that orients it even more personally in my own experiences is the song Church. So this is a picture of me from my first communion. I was born and raised Catholic, but now that I'm an adult, I don't really practice Catholicism. I would say I'm kind of a spiritual person, and I'm still trying to explore the best ways to practice my faith. Um, but a big way that I tend to make sense of things is through music and writing. And so in this quote here, Macklemore says, "The universal laws of God, don't look too far. It's right here, us human beings. Every time I want to connect with God, I put my headphones on, grab my pen, my pad, let it seep in. That's my process. God's always watching. God's in my Walkman." So for Macklemore too, he really describes this experience of spirituality and understanding through the idea of music. Whether it's listening to music or writing music, that's how he makes sense of things that are unknown in his life. Um, and I love that lyric because, like I said, it really speaks to how I tend to process things in my own life, whether it's Macklemore or other artists. I really make sense of things through the arts. But again, this is just my own personal experience with spirituality. But everybody has their own unique experience, whether it be Vipassana in ancient Indian culture or Islam. There's all different types of religions. And with that being said, though, of course, unfortunately, gives way to inequality in the face of religion. And so this idea of intersectionality that we've been talking about, if there's people with identities of greater privilege, including maybe religious privilege, those people can use their resources in a way that might marginalize those with less privileged identities. And of course, there is an example of this for religion. Recently, at the beginning of the year, Robert F. Kennedy of the Kennedy family was speaking at an anti-vax rally, and he is a Christian, white, powerful male, but he essentially conveyed, even in Hitler's Germany, you could cross the Alps to Switzerland. You could hide in the attic like Anne Frank. The mechanisms being put into place today, like vaccine passports, will make it so none of us can run and none of us can hide. Even in East Germany, people climbed the wall and escaped. So it was possible. So just the level of insensitivity that Kennedy conveys in this message at this anti-mask, anti-vax rally speaks to these ideas of privilege and oppression. And because he has such a platform, he's able to spread such religiously insensitive ideas to a big group of people and kind of perpetrate that. He also compared the team of people fighting COVID to fascism. And even in 2015, he compared childhood vaccines to the Holocaust. So overall, it's just he has a lot of these misguided beliefs that he's able to share with a big group of people, which can be very damaging. And I think the Auschwitz Memorial sums it up very well in their reply. They say, exploiting of the tragedy of people who suffered, were humiliated, tortured, and murdered by Nazi Germany, including Anne Frank, in a debate about vaccines and limitations during a pandemic, is a sad symptom of moral and intellectual decay. And again, it's just this idea that the people advocating for vaccines are trying to help humanity overall, but this idea of comparing them to Nazis who were not at all doing the same thing is very hurtful. And Kennedy did reply, but it just didn't seem that genuine. And even his wife and his sister spoke out on Twitter as well, kind of just explaining they didn't resonate with those similar beliefs. And so again, that just refers to how unique spirituality can be for everyone. Even in your own family or those you're around, you might have a different experience of religion. And again, this kind of emphasizes why it's so relevant to social work or even youth development practice. Given that in social work, you're going to meet people of all different walks of life, you're going to find that everybody has their own experience with religion and spirituality. And so it's so important that you're able to be culturally conscious and kind of meet people where they are and see them for their experiences and really bear witness, even if their religion is different than yours or different than your understanding. Which leads to the idea that you want to kind of work with the client and their own understanding. And you want to follow their lead with language, vocabulary, customs. So essentially, however the client explains their understanding of spirituality to you, that's how you should maybe discuss it with them and practice with them, as that's the way that they understand it. Similarly, it leads into this idea of radical acceptance, or the idea that spirituality can really help people who are suffering, as it helps them learn to accept the suffering rather than resisting it or going against it. So if God or some sort of religious idea is working for the client and helping them to stay positive, it's important to really embrace that in their treatment. And this just kind of leads me back to a quote I had cited from Jacobs at the beginning of this presentation, and that idea of transitional space. But I'm just going to read it again. She says, spiritual resources create an area of transitional space where the individual can organize responses, give meaning to events. The transformation of symbols, rituals, beliefs, and divinity is a profound example of resilience and capacity to create life and hope. So I just feel like this sums up that idea that our fear of the unknown, amidst all these cultural things, religion and spirituality give us a sense of hope and understanding in spite of all of that. And regardless of the way that you interpret divinity, it still can be a tool in your life to guide you or your clients. But yes, that is all I have for today. But thank you so much for tuning in to this special presentation of Academic Abby. Be sure to check out our other videos or like and subscribe if you'd like. Thank you, and